If someone had told Chioma Okafor 6 months ago that she would be standing at the gates of a Korean crime lord's mansion, she would have laughed in their face. But desperation has a funny way of rewriting your story. The iron gates stretched 15 feet high, black and imposing against the Seoul skyline. Security cameras tracked her every move as the car rolled through, and Chioma pressed her palm against her chest, trying to calm her racing heart. 28 years old. Culinary school certificates that meant nothing back home in Lagos. A failed restaurant that swallowed her savings and her pride. And now this. A job posting that promised 3 times what any normal chef position would pay. She should have known that kind of money came with secrets. The estate unfolded before her like something from a movie. Modern glass and steel mixed with traditional Korean architecture. Everything screamed wealth and danger in equal measure. Chioma clutched her battered suitcase tighter. This was her last chance. Her only chance. What she did not know was that somewhere in that massive house, a man sat in front of 12 different screens, watching her arrival with dark, calculating eyes. Kong Mi-hoo, 34 years old. They whispered his name in the streets of Seoul like a prayer or a curse, depending on who you asked. He built his empire from nothing. Shipping companies that moved more than just cargo. Nightclubs where deals happened in dark corners. Real estate that changed hands for reasons the law preferred not to examine too closely. But none of that mattered to him as much as the woman dying 3 floors above his head. His mother. And he had no idea. The car stopped. A stern-faced woman in her 60s stood at the entrance, her expression as welcoming as a winter storm. Mrs. Shin, head of household. The woman who held all the power in this place, or so she thought. "You are late," Mrs. Shin said in English, her accent thick and disapproving. Chioma checked her phone. She was actually 10 minutes early. "I apologize. The traffic was." "Save your excuses. Follow me." The kitchen was massive. Industrial. State-of-the-art equipment that made Chioma's fingers itch to start cooking. But the staff looked at her like she was an insect that had crawled onto their pristine counters. Head Chef Park stood in the center, arms crossed over his chest. 50-something with eyes that could cut through bone. So, the African girl. Not a question. An accusation wrapped in casual racism that made Chioma's jaw tighten. But she needed this job. Needed it desperately. "I am Chioma Okafor, your new chef." "We will see about that," Chef Park said. "You will work the prep station. Stay out of everyone's way. Do not touch anything without permission." The other cooks did not even acknowledge her. They moved around her like she was invisible, and maybe that was better. Easier. Chioma tied her apron, rolled up her sleeves, and got to work. But as the hours passed and the dinner service began, she noticed something that made her stomach turn. The waste. Beautiful cuts of beef, barely touched, scraped into the trash. Whole roasted chickens thrown away like garbage. Fresh vegetables, imported and expensive, discarded without a second thought. This was not carelessness. This was deliberate. Intentional. And late that night, when the kitchen finally emptied and Chioma was left alone cleaning stations no one else bothered with, she heard it. Faint. Distant. Like wind through a crack in the walls. But it was not wind. It was someone crying. Chioma should have gone to bed. Should have remembered that in houses like this, curiosity did not just kill the cat, it made the cat disappear entirely. But her grandmother's voice echoed in her head. The woman who raised her after her parents died in that car crash. The woman who taught her that food was love, and love meant showing up for people who needed you. She followed the sound through hallways that grew darker with each turn, past closed doors and watchful cameras, until she reached a section of the house that felt abandoned. Forgotten. The south wing. The door was locked, but the crying was clearer now. Stronger. Not crying. Whimpering. Chioma's hands shook as she tried the handle. Locked. Of course. She was about to turn back when she noticed it. A smaller door. Older. The kind kitchen staff would have used decades ago to deliver meals without disturbing the residents. It opened with a soft click that sounded like thunder in the quiet hallway. And what Chioma found inside changed everything. The room was beautiful. Silk curtains. Antique furniture. Expensive wallpaper that probably cost more than her entire education. But in the center of it all, in a bed far too large for her frail body, was a woman who looked like she was fading away. 70 years old, maybe older. skin stretched tight over bones that jutted out at wrong angles. Eyes sunken deep into her skull, lips cracked and bleeding. She looked at Chioma with an expression that broke something deep in Chioma's chest. Hope. Pure, desperate, heartbreaking hope. Please, the woman whispered in English, her accent thick but clear. Please, are you real? Chioma's throat closed around the words she wanted to say. She moved closer, her feet carrying her forward even as her mind screamed at her to run. To get out. To save herself. I am real, she managed. Who are you? I am G1. Mihu's mother. Her voice cracked on the words. And they are letting me starve. Before you continue this journey with us, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This story is about to take you places you never expected. Trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. Chioma's mind raced. Mihu's mother. Kong Mihu. The man who owned this entire estate. Who employed everyone here. Who supposedly controlled everything with an iron fist. His mother was dying in a locked room, and he did not know? That seemed impossible. Insane. I do not understand, Chioma whispered, kneeling beside the bed. How could he not know? How could no one help you? They tell him I am confused, G1 said, her thin hand reaching for Chioma's. Her grip was weak, but determined. That I refuse to eat. That I have dementia and do not remember my meals. But I am not confused. They bring me trays. Beautiful trays. But when they lift the covers, there is nothing, or so little it would not feed a child. Cold fury swept through Chioma's body. Who? Who is doing this to you? Mrs. Shin, the head of household. She controls everything. Everyone. My son trusts her. A tear slipped down G1's weathered cheek. He is so busy, so consumed with his business. He does not see what is happening in his own house. Chioma looked around the room. No call button. No phone. No way for this woman to reach the outside world. A prison disguised as luxury. What is your name, child? G1 asked. Chioma. Chioma Okafor. Chioma. G1 tested the name on her tongue. It is beautiful. What does it mean? Good God. Chioma's voice was barely above a whisper. My grandmother said it means God is good. Then perhaps God sent you to me. G1's grip tightened. Will you help me, Chioma? Please. Every logical part of Chioma's brain screamed at her to say no. To walk away. To protect herself. She was alone in a foreign country. Working for a dangerous man. One wrong move, and she could disappear, and no one back home would even know where to look for her body. But she looked at G1's face. Saw her own grandmother in those desperate eyes. And she knew she could not walk away. I will help you, Chioma said. But we have to be smart about this. If they know I found you, they will send me away. Or worse. Then they cannot know. G1's eyes sharpened with an intelligence that proved she was far from confused. Come back tomorrow night. Bring food. Real food. And we will figure this out together. I do not even know if I can get back in here. You found your way in once. You will find it again. G1 touched Chioma's cheek with a tenderness that made tears spring to Chioma's eyes. You are brave. I can see it. And bravery is what I need right now. Chioma wanted to argue. Wanted to say she was not brave, just desperate and stupid. But G1's eyes were already closing, exhaustion claiming her. She slipped out of the room the same way she came in. Heart pounding, hands shaking, mind racing with what she had just discovered. Back in her small room in the staff quarters, Chioma sat on her narrow bed and tried to process everything. A dying woman. A son who did not know. A household conspiracy that could get her killed. She should pack her bags. Leave tonight. Get as far from this place as possible. Instead, she pulled out her phone and started researching. Malnutrition. Starvation. What foods would help someone recover? What she could make from scraps that no one would miss. Because Chioma Okafor might be desperate. Might be broke. Might be thousands of miles from home with no backup plan. But her grandmother raised her to show up for people who needed her. And G1 needed her. Even if it killed her. The next night, Chioma waited until the kitchen fell silent. Until the last cook left and the lights dimmed. Until the estate settled into its uneasy sleep. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she gathered what she needed. Chicken bones that would have been thrown away. Vegetable scraps. Ginger and garlic that were starting to turn. Things no one would miss. Things that would not show up on any inventory list. In her room, she had smuggled in a small hot plate from a market in Itaewon. Against the rules, probably. but essential now. She made bone broth, the kind her grandmother used to make when Chioma was sick, rich and nourishing, the kind that could bring someone back from the edge of death. The smell filled her tiny room, and she prayed no one would notice, prayed no one would ask questions. At midnight, she made her way back to the south wing. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every camera felt like an eye watching her, judging her, recording evidence of her crime. Because that was what this was. A crime. Theft. Trespassing. Disobeying the head of household. But when she slipped through that service door and saw Ji-won's face light up at the sight of her, all the fear melted away. "You came back," Ji-won whispered, tears already streaming down her face. "I thought perhaps I dreamed you. I am real. And I brought food." Chioma helped Ji-won sit up, supporting her weight. The woman was so light. Too light. Like holding a bird. "We have to go slowly. Your stomach needs to remember how to eat." Ji-won took small sips of the broth. Each one seemed to bring a little more life back to her eyes, a little more color to her cheeks. "Tell me about him," Chioma said, trying to distract her. Keep her focused on something other than the hunger that must be clawing at her insides. "Your son, Mihu." Ji-won's expression softened in a way that made Chioma's chest ache. "He is brilliant, strong, but so lonely. After his father died, he closed himself off from the world, built walls so high that sometimes I wonder if even I can reach him anymore. He must love you very much." "He does, in his way. But love and attention are different things, are they not?" Ji-won paused, gathering strength. "He thinks I am being cared for, that I have everything I need." Mrs. Shin shows him reports, medical documents. All lies. All carefully constructed lies. Chioma's hands clenched around the bowl. "How long has this been happening?" 6 months. Maybe more. Time blurs when you are starving." Ji-won's voice was steady now, stronger. "It started slowly. Smaller portions. Then they said I was losing my appetite. That I was confused about whether I had eaten. They brought doctors who examined me for 5 minutes and confirmed whatever Mrs. Shin told them to say. This is criminal. We need to tell someone. The police. Someone. The police." Ji-won laughed, a bitter sound. "Child, do you know what my son does? The world he lives in? The police do not help people like us. They look the other way. Then Mihu. We tell Mihu. And say what? That his trusted head of household, the woman who has run his home for years, is trying to kill me? Without proof, he will think I am the confused old woman they say I am." Ji-won touched Chioma's hand. "Mrs. Shin controls the household accounts. Millions of won pass through her hands every year. If I die, if Mihu is distracted by grief, she can do whatever she wants. Take whatever she wants. She has planned this carefully." Chioma felt sick. Trapped. "So what do? We survive. You keep feeding me. Keep bringing me back to life. And we wait for the right moment." Ji-won's eyes held a determination that made Chioma believe, for the first time, that they might actually survive this. "And you stay safe. Promise me you will be careful." "I promise." For 2 weeks, Chioma lived a double life. By day, she was the Nigerian chef the kitchen staff barely tolerated. She kept her head down, did her work, stayed invisible in a way she had perfected back in Lagos, in restaurants where being a woman was already a disadvantage without adding her skin color to the equation. By night, she was a thief, a caretaker, a lifeline to a dying woman. She stole food in amounts no one would notice. Bone broth became rice porridge. Rice porridge became soft vegetables. Soft vegetables became small pieces of fish, carefully seasoned to tempt Ji-won's recovering appetite. And Ji-won began to change. Color returned to her cheeks, strength to her hands, light to her eyes that had been dimmed by months of starvation. They talked during those midnight hours. Chioma told stories about Lagos, about the restaurant she had tried to open with money she borrowed from everyone she knew, about the partners who disappeared with the funds, leaving her with nothing but debt and shame, about the grandmother who taught her that food was love made visible, made tangible, made real. Ji-won told stories about Mihu, about the boy he had been before life made him hard, sweet and gentle, she said, about the man he became after his father's death, cold and distant, building an empire on fear and respect and absolute control. "He needs someone," Ji-won said one night, her voice thoughtful. "Someone who sees past the armor he wears. Someone brave enough to reach the man inside. Chioma laughed softly. I do not think your son would look twice at someone like me. You would be surprised. Ji-won's smile was knowing. Mysterious. Me who respects strength. And you, my dear Chioma, are the strongest person I have met in a very long time. The next day, Chioma met Kang Mi-hu for the first time. She was carrying supplies through the main hall, a route she normally avoided, but the regular path was blocked by maintenance work. And there he was, tall. So tall that Chioma had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Devastatingly handsome in the way that dangerous men often are. Sharp suit that probably cost more than her entire year's salary. Dark hair pushed back from a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. Cold. Perfect. Terrifying. He was on his phone, speaking rapid Korean, his voice low and commanding. The kind of voice that made people move. Made them obey without question. Chioma tried to slip past unnoticed. Tried to be invisible the way she had learned to be. She failed. You. His voice stopped her mid-step. Cut through the air like a blade. You are the new chef. Chioma turned slowly. Up close, he was even more intimidating. But she had faced down loan sharks in Lagos. Had negotiated with suppliers who thought they could cheat her because she was young and female and too soft. She could handle this. Yes, sir. Chioma Okafor. His eyes scanned her face. Not in a way that felt predatory, but analytical. Like he was gathering data. Processing information. Calculating her worth. How are you finding the position? It is challenging, but I am managing. The kitchen staff treating you well? It was a test. Chioma could feel it in the air between them. But what was the right answer? Complain and seem weak? Lie and seem dishonest? She settled for honesty. The careful kind. They are professional. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. So brief she almost missed it. Diplomatic. I appreciate that. He moved to walk past her, and Chioma felt relief flood through her body. But then he paused, turned back. Those dark eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. My head of household, Mrs. Shin, mentioned some inventory discrepancies. Missing ingredients. You would not know anything about that, would you? Chioma's heart stopped. Actually stopped in her chest. But her face remained calm. Years of dealing with immigration officers and hostile customers had taught her how to lie with her expression. How to show nothing when everything inside her was screaming. No, sir. But I have noticed the kitchen runs through supplies very quickly. Perhaps it is a tracking issue. Mihu studied her for a long moment. Those dark eyes seemed to see straight through her skin. Through her bones. Into her soul. Perhaps, he said finally. Welcome to my home, Miss Okafor. And then he was gone. Leaving Chioma standing in the hallway with her heart racing and her hands shaking and the absolute certainty that Kang Mi-hu knew she was lying. She just did not know what he was going to do about it. What Chioma did not know was that Mi-hu stood on the other side of the hallway for a full minute after walking away. His phone forgotten in his hand. His meeting forgotten. Everything forgotten except the Nigerian chef with frightened eyes and steady hands. There was something about her. Something that nagged at him like a splinter under his skin. She was lying. He knew it. Could feel it in the way her pulse jumped at her throat. The way her fingers tightened on the box she carried. The micro-expression that crossed her face before she schooled it into calm. But why? What was she hiding? And more importantly, why did he find himself wanting to know? Wanting to understand what could make someone lie to him? To his face. In his own house. No one lied to Kang Mi-hu. Not if they wanted to keep breathing. And the Nigerian chef had done exactly that. But instead of anger, he felt curious. Interested. Intrigued in a way he had not been in years. Dangerous. She was dangerous. Not in the way his enemies were dangerous, but in a way that felt somehow worse. More threatening to the careful control he maintained over every aspect of his life. He should fire her. Send her away. Eliminate the problem before it became something he could not control. But he did not. Instead, he pulled out his phone and made a call. I want cameras installed. Kitchen. Storage areas. Hallways. I want to know exactly what is happening in my house. Mrs. Shin's voice was smooth. Satisfied. Of course, sir. I will have it done immediately. Mihu ended the call and stood in the empty hallway, staring at nothing. Thinking about lying eyes and steady hands, and the feeling that his carefully ordered world was about to be turned completely upside down. He just did not know how right he was. Mrs. Shin came to Mihu's office 3 days after his encounter with Chioma. She moved with the confidence of someone who had run his household for years. Someone he trusted without question. That trust was about to become his greatest mistake. "Sir, I need to discuss a concerning matter," Mrs. Shin began, her voice full of practiced worry. Mihu looked up from his laptop. Financial reports from his shipping company. Numbers that did not quite add up, but that was a problem for later. "Go on." "The inventory issues I mentioned are getting worse. Significant amounts of food are disappearing. Expensive ingredients." She paused, letting the implication hang in the air. "I hate to say this, but I believe the Nigerian chef is stealing." Mihu leaned back in his chair. "You have proof. The numbers do not lie. And she has been seen in areas of the house where kitchen staff have no business being." "Which areas?" Mrs. Shin hesitated. The perfect calculated pause. "Near the storage rooms. The older sections of the estate. I did not want to make accusations without bringing this to you first." Mihu's jaw tightened. "Theft. In his own home. From someone he hired. Someone he gave an opportunity to when she clearly needed it." It felt personal. "The cameras are already installed," he said coldly. "I will know exactly what is happening in my house." Mrs. Shin bowed, but not before Mihu caught the flash of satisfaction in her eyes. "Of course, sir. I am sure we will get to the bottom of this." As she left, a smile played at the corners of her mouth. Soon, the Nigerian would be gone, and the old woman upstairs would finally stop being a problem. That night, Chioma told herself she was being ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. She had met Kong Mihu exactly once. Spoken to him for maybe 3 minutes. There was no reason for her to lie awake thinking about the way his voice sounded. Deep and measured, like every word was chosen with purpose. Like every syllable carried weight. No reason to wonder what it would be like if those dark eyes looked at her with something other than suspicion. "You are blushing," Ji-won said with amusement, pulling Chioma from her thoughts. They were in the south wing. Chioma was helping Ji-won eat carefully prepared soup. Vegetables and chicken, easy to digest, but packed with nutrients. Ji-won was stronger now. Could sit up without help. Could eat without struggling for breath. "I am not," Chioma protested. "You are. And you were thinking about my son. I was thinking about how to get you out of this room without getting us both killed." Ji-won laughed softly. It was a sound that had been absent when they first met. A sound that made Chioma's heart feel lighter. "You are a terrible liar, my dear." "Fine. Maybe I think he is impressive. But it does not matter. Men like that do not notice women like me. Women like you." Ji-won raised an eyebrow. "You mean strong, intelligent, beautiful women who risk everything to save a stranger?" "I mean broke Nigerian chefs with more debt than sense." "Chioma." Ji-won's tone turned serious. "My son has been surrounded by people who want something from him his entire life. Money, power, status, connections. You are the first person in years who does not want anything from him. That is because I have never actually had a real conversation with him." "Yet," Ji-won said with a mysterious smile, "you have not had a real conversation with him yet." Mihu sat in his private office, watching the newly installed camera feeds flicker to life on his screens. 12 different angles. Kitchen, hallways, storage rooms. The older sections of the house, where his mother preferred to stay undisturbed. He told himself he was looking for a thief. For evidence of theft. For proof that would justify the nagging feeling that something was wrong in his house. But when Chioma appeared on screen, moving through the kitchen with practiced efficiency, he found himself watching for different reasons. She moved like a dancer. Precise. Graceful. Completely focused on her work in a way that spoke of years of training. Of passion. Of someone who loved what they did even when the world made it difficult. The other kitchen staff ignored her. Sometimes deliberately bumped into her. Small cruelties that made Mihu's hands clench around his coffee cup. He should reprimand them. Create a better working environment. Show leadership. But he was too focused on Chioma herself. The way she tasted everything she made. The small smile when she got something exactly right. The frustrated furrow of her brow when something did not meet her standards. The way she helped others even when they did not deserve her kindness. Beautiful. The thought came unbidden. Unwelcome. Dangerous. Mihu pushed it away. She was an employee. Possibly a thief. Nothing more. Nothing that should occupy his thoughts like this. But as the hours passed and day turned to night, Mihu found himself still watching, unable to look away, unable to focus on the work piling up on his desk. Chioma cleaned her station, helped others with tasks that were not her responsibility. And then, when she thought no one was looking, she gathered items from the refrigerator. Mihu leaned forward, his full attention on the screen now. Here it was, the proof Mrs. Shin wanted, the evidence that would justify sending her away. But something felt wrong, off, like a piece of a puzzle that did not quite fit. Chioma was not taking expensive ingredients. She was taking scraps, bones, vegetable ends, things that would be thrown away anyway, things that had no value. Why would someone steal garbage? Mihu watched Chioma leave the kitchen at 11:45. He tracked her on cameras through the hallway, expected her to head to her room in the staff quarters. Instead, she went to the south wing. Mihu's blood ran cold, actually froze in his veins. The south wing, where his mother stayed, where she was supposed to be resting, recovering from what the doctors said was a combination of old age and declining appetite. What possible reason could the Nigerian chef have for going there? He switched camera feeds frantically, but the south wing had limited coverage. His mother valued her privacy, and he had respected that, had given her the space she asked for. Now he cursed that decision, cursed his blindness, cursed everything that kept him from seeing what was happening in his own house. He could only watch as Chioma disappeared from view, carrying her stolen scraps like they were treasure. 20 minutes later, she reappeared on camera, empty-handed, moving carefully, quietly, like someone who had just committed a crime and was trying not to get caught. Back to her room like nothing had happened, like she had not just been in his mother's quarters doing God knows what. Mihu sat in darkness, his mind racing with possibilities. None of them good, none of them acceptable. Tomorrow, he would check on his mother, ask her directly about the Nigerian chef's visits, get answers to the questions burning in his mind. But tonight, he made a decision that would change everything. Tomorrow night, he would be waiting, watching in person, ready to catch Chioma in the act. If she was hurting his mother, she would regret ever setting foot in his home. He would make sure of it, would make an example of her that would echo through the streets of Seoul. And if she was doing something else, something he could not yet understand, well, he needed to know what that something else was. Needed to understand why his instincts were screaming at him that nothing about this situation made sense. The next night, Ji-won's voice was urgent, worried in a way Chioma had not heard before. You need to be more careful, Ji-won said. Her voice was stronger now. 2 weeks of proper nutrition making a visible difference in her health. Mrs. Shin suspects something. I can feel it. She came by yesterday, watched me more closely than usual. Chioma's hands stilled on the bowl she was holding. Did she bring you food? She brought me a tray. Like always. Ji-won's expression darkened with anger, with disgust. 3 grapes, a corner of toast, a teaspoon of rice. And then she wrote in her chart that I refused a full meal, that I was being difficult and irrational. Chioma's grip tightened on the bowl, white-knuckled, furious. We need to tell someone. Your son, the police, anyone. Who would believe us? Mrs. Shin has records, doctor's reports, everything carefully documented. I am just a confused old woman who does not know what she has eaten. And you are a foreign chef who was caught stealing. I was not caught. Not yet. Ji-won touched Chioma's cheek gently, motherly. But they are watching now. I know they are. You need to be careful. Promise me. I promise. But even as Chioma said the words, she knew she would not stop. Could not stop. Not when Ji-won was finally getting better, finally coming back to life. And you? Ji-won continued, her eyes knowing. Too knowing. You need to prepare yourself. For what? For when Mihu discovers the truth. Because he will. My son is many things, but stupid is not one of them. He will figure out what you have been doing. And when he does, you need to be ready to face him. If you are enjoying this story, do not forget to like and share. Things are about to get intense, and you will not want to miss what happens when Mihu finally confronts Chioma. Trust me on this. What neither of them knew was that Mihu was about to see more than the truth. He was about to see everything, and nothing would ever be the same again. Mihu positioned himself in the shadows of the south wing hallway at 11:30. He had dismissed his security team for the night, told them he was handling a personal matter that required privacy. This needed to be between him and the Nigerian chef. No witnesses. No complications. If Chioma was involved in something that threatened his mother, he would handle it himself. Quietly. Permanently. The way he handled all threats to his family. The thought should have been cold. Clinical. Just another business decision. Instead, something in his chest tightened at the idea of Chioma being a threat. At the possibility that she might have to disappear. He pushed the feeling away. Emotions were weaknesses. And Kang Mi-hoo had not built his empire by being weak. At 11:57, he heard footsteps. Soft. Careful. Deliberate. Chioma appeared, moving quietly through the darkened hallway. In her hands, she carried a covered bowl that steamed slightly in the cool air. The smell reached him even from his hiding spot. Rich. Nourishing. Made with care. Mi-hoo's hand moved to his phone. One call. One message. And his security team would be here in seconds. Would take her away. Make her disappear like she had never existed. But something made him wait. Made him watch as she reached the service door. A door he had not even known existed in his own house. She slipped inside without hesitation. Like she had done this many times before. Mi-hoo gave her a 30-second head start. Then he followed. What Mi-hoo saw when he opened that door shattered his entire world into pieces he would never be able to put back together the same way. His mother. His strong, vibrant mother who had raised him alone after his father's death. Who had supported his choices even when the world called him a monster. Reduced to skin and bones. Skeletal. Dying. Sitting in bed with tears streaming down her face as Chioma carefully spooned soup into her mouth. Gentle. Patient. Loving. That is it. Chioma was murmuring in that accented English that Mi-hoo suddenly realized he had been hearing in his dreams. You are doing so well, Ji-won. Just a little more. You need your strength. You are an angel, his mother whispered. Her voice was weak. So weak. When had it become so weak? I do not know what I did to deserve you. You do not have to deserve kindness. You just have to accept it. Mi-hoo's vision blurred. When had his mother become so frail? So thin? He saw her weekly. Spoke to her. Mrs. Shin always said she was fine. Resting. Getting the best care money could buy. This was not fine. This was dying. This was starvation. This was murder happening in slow motion under his own roof. Chioma sensed him before she saw him. A presence in the room. A change in the air pressure. The feeling of being watched. She turned, and her face went completely white. All the blood draining away until she looked like she might faint. Kang Mi-hoo stood in the doorway, and the expression on his face was something Chioma had never seen on any human being before. Devastation. Pure, absolute, soul-destroying devastation. Mi-hoo, Ji-won breathed. Son, please. How long? His voice was barely a whisper. Rough. Broken. How long have you been like this? 6 months. Maybe more. I lost track of the days. Mi-hoo's hands shook. Actually shook. Chioma watched this powerful man, this crime lord who made grown men tremble, crumble before her eyes. And you? He turned to Chioma. Those dark eyes were wet now, shining with unshed tears. How long have you known? 2 weeks. I found her by accident. I have been trying to help. 2 weeks. Mi-hoo's voice broke on the words. You have known for 2 weeks that my mother was starving to death, and you did not tell me? Chioma stood, moving instinctively between Mi-hoo and Ji-won. Protective. Defensive. She begged me not to. She said if anyone knew, they would send me away, and she would have no one. I am her son. The words were a roar. Raw. Painful. I am supposed to protect her. I am supposed to keep her safe. That is my job. My only job that matters. You did not know, Ji-won said softly from the bed. Mrs. Shin made sure you did not know. Made sure you believed I was fine. That I was just getting old and losing my appetite. Mi-hoo turned to his mother, crossed the room in 3 long strides, fell to his knees beside her bed like a supplicant before a queen. Tell me, he said. Tell me everything. And Ji-won did. Every word was a knife to his chest. The empty trays disguised as full meals. The doctors who examined her for minutes and confirmed whatever Mrs. Shin told them. The carefully constructed reports of dementia and confusion. The locked door. The isolation. All lies. All happening while he worked 60, 70-hour weeks building an empire. While he trusted the people he paid to care for his mother. Why? Mi-hoo finally asked, his voice hollow. Empty. Why would Mrs. Shin do this? Money, Chioma said quietly. She had not moved from her protective position. Your mother controls trust funds, household accounts. If she dies and you are consumed with grief, Mrs. Shin can do whatever she wants with the finances. She has been embezzling for years, Jiwon added. Her voice was stronger now. Steadier. I have proof. Documents I managed to hide before she locked me in this room. But I could not get them to you. Could not get anything to you. Mihu looked at Chioma then. Really looked at her for the first time since entering the room. This woman, this stranger from a country he had never visited, had saved his mother's life while everyone he trusted had been trying to end it. Thank you, he said. His voice was rough with emotion he could not control, could not hide. Thank you for being braver than I was. For seeing what I missed. For caring when no one else did. Chioma shook her head. I did not do anything special. I just fed someone who was hungry. You risked your job, your safety, your life. Mihu stood slowly. For someone you did not know? In a country that is not your home. Working for a man who could have made you disappear without anyone ever finding your body. Your mother is easy to love, Chioma said simply. And something in those words hit Mihu like a physical blow. They talked until dawn broke over Seoul. The three of them in that room that had been a prison. Planning, strategizing, figuring out their next move. Mihu wanted to call the police immediately. Have Mrs. Shin arrested. Drag her through the courts. Make her suffer the way his mother had suffered. But Chioma stopped him with a hand on his arm. The first time she had voluntarily touched him. The contact sent electricity through his body. If you move too fast, she will destroy evidence. Disappear with the money she has already stolen. You need to be smart about this. Smart. Mihu's voice was dangerous. Cold. The voice he used when deciding someone's fate. She starved my mother. I do not want to be smart. I want her to suffer. And she will, Chioma promised. Her eyes met his. Fearless. But first, we need to make sure she can never hurt anyone again. That means evidence. Witnesses. An airtight case that will put her away for the rest of her life. Ji-won reached for her son's hand. Listen to her, Mihu. Chioma is right. We need to be strategic. We need to be smart. Mihu looked between the two women. His mother, getting stronger every day thanks to Chioma's care. And Chioma herself. Fierce and protective, and so beautiful it hurt to look at her. Beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with her face and everything to do with the strength radiating from her like heat. Fine, he said through gritted teeth. We do this carefully. But Mrs. Shin is done. And everyone who helped her is done. I will make sure of it. What started as a simple plan became something more complex as they talked through the details. Mihu would continue acting normal, pretending he knew nothing. Meanwhile, he would gather evidence. Track Mrs. Shin's financial transactions. Document everything she had stolen. Build a case that would be impossible to fight. Chioma would continue her midnight visits. Keep feeding Ji-won. Keep her alive and growing stronger every day. But she would be more careful now. More aware of the cameras. Of the watching eyes. And Ji-won would provide the documents she had hidden. Proof of years of embezzlement and fraud. Numbers that would not lie even when people did. But plans, even careful ones, rarely survive first contact with reality. And Mrs. Shin was about to make a move that would force everyone's hand. Mihu started joining Chioma's midnight visits after that first night. At first, he told himself it was to see his mother, to make up for lost time, to witness her recovery firsthand. But he could not ignore the truth that became more obvious with each passing night. He was there to see Chioma. She transformed in that room. The careful, quiet chef he saw in the kitchen became someone else entirely. Warm, funny, gentle with his mother in ways that made his heart ache with something he could not name. Did not want to name. Try this, Chioma said one night, offering Ji-won a spoonful of something that smelled incredible. Korean-style chicken soup, but with a few of my grandmother's secret ingredients. I thought you might like a taste of home mixed with mine. Ji-won's eyes filled with tears as she tasted it. It is perfect, just like my mother used to make. How did you know? I did not. I just guessed. Chioma smiled. Food is a language. Sometimes you can speak it even when you do not know the words. Mihu watched Chioma's face light up with pride. Watched the way she touched his mother's hand so gently. The way she celebrated every small victory like it was a miracle. And he felt something he had not felt in years. Something dangerous and terrifying and absolutely undeniable. Want. Not just physical, though there was that too. He would be lying if he said Chioma was not beautiful, that he did not notice the curve of her neck, the softness of her mouth, the way her eyes sparkled when she smiled at something his mother said. But this was deeper, more fundamental, like something in his chest recognizing something in hers. He wanted her in his life, wanted her strength and kindness and fierce protection, wanted to be the kind of man who deserved someone like her, someone good, someone who saw a stranger suffering and decided to help instead of looking away. Chioma felt it too. The shift in the air when Mihu was near, the weight of his attention, the way her skin prickled with awareness every time he entered the room. She told herself it was gratitude, relief that Ji-won's son knew the truth and was helping, that they were not alone in this anymore. But late at night, lying in her narrow bed in the staff quarters, she admitted the truth she could not say out loud. She was falling for Kang Mihu, the way he looked at his mother with such tenderness, such regret, the way his voice softened when he spoke to her, asked about her day, listened like her words mattered more than anything else in the world. The careful way he asked Chioma about her life, her dreams, her grandmother who had raised her, like he genuinely cared about the answers, like she was more than just the chef who saved his mother. And the way he looked at Chioma sometimes, when he thought she was not paying attention, like she was precious, like she mattered, like she was someone worth protecting. It was intoxicating, addictive, terrifying, because men like Kang Mihu did not end up with women like Chioma Okafor. That was not how the world worked. That was not how this story was supposed to end, was it? It happened on a Tuesday night, 3 weeks into Chioma's midnight missions. 1 week after Mihu discovered the truth. Chioma was helping Ji-won back into bed after a short walk around the room. Physical therapy, she called it. Small steps toward recovery. Small victories that felt monumental. But Chioma misjudged the distance. Her foot caught on the corner of the rug, and she stumbled forward. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground, steadied her, held her. Mihu. For a moment, they stood frozen, his hands on her waist, her palms pressed against his chest, close enough that she could feel his heartbeat. Fast, racing, as fast as hers. Careful, he murmured. His voice was lower than usual, rougher, like gravel and honey mixed together. Chioma looked up, met his eyes, and saw something there that made her breath catch in her throat. Heat. Want. Hunger. She started. You should be more careful, he repeated. But he did not let go, did not step back. His thumbs moved against her waist. Such a small gesture. It felt like fire spreading through her entire body. I am usually very careful, Chioma whispered. Are you? His eyes dropped to her mouth, lingered there. I have noticed you take risks. Big ones. Dangerous ones. Only when it matters. And this matters? The question hung between them. Heavy, loaded with meaning. From the bed, Ji-won smiled to herself. Finally, her son had been alone for so long, closed off from the world, protecting himself from people who wanted to use him, hurt him, take from him. But Chioma was different. Chioma had walls of her own, built from different pain, different losses. And somehow, the two of them were breaking each other's defenses down brick by brick. Ji-won cleared her throat deliberately, loudly. I think I need some water. The spell broke. Mihu stepped back quickly. Chioma nearly stumbled again without his support, catching herself on the edge of the bed. I will get it, Chioma said quickly, moving toward the small table where she kept supplies. Her hands shook as she poured, and she could feel Mihu's eyes on her the entire time, burning into her back, making her skin flush with heat. Mrs. Shin reviewed the camera footage every morning, a routine that had become obsessive since the Nigerian arrived. Since Mihu started asking questions she could not fully answer. She was looking for proof, evidence to present to Mihu that would justify firing Chioma immediately, getting rid of the problem before it became something she could not control. But what she found on the footage made her blood run cold. Mihu, in the south wing, in his mother's room, with the Nigerian chef, for hours, every night for the past week. Mrs. Shin's hands clenched around her tablet. This was not supposed to happen. Mihu never visited his mother at night, never spent more than 15 minutes in her room during his brief afternoon check-ins. What had changed? What had that Nigerian which told him? She watched the footage more carefully, saw the way Mihu looked at the old woman, saw the emotion on his face, the tears, the rage, the devastation. He knew. Somehow, impossibly, he knew about the starvation, the abuse, everything. And worse. So much worse. The way he looked at the Nigerian. The way he touched her when she stumbled. The way he stayed close even when there was no reason to. The way his eyes followed her around the room like she was the only thing that mattered. He was falling for her. Mrs. Shin's mind raced. She had spent years building her position, embezzling millions of won, setting up accounts in other countries, planning her retirement, her escape. If Mihu knew the truth, it was all over. She would lose everything. Worse, she would go to prison. Or worse than prison. Men like Kang Mihu did not send people to prison when they betrayed him. They sent them to graves. She needed to act. Fast. Before Mihu could gather evidence. Before he could move against her. The Nigerian was the key. Get rid of her, and everything else would fall apart. Mihu would have no witness. No proof. Just the word of a confused old woman against years of carefully documented medical records. Mrs. Shin picked up her phone, made a call, spoke in rapid Korean to someone who understood that some problems needed permanent solutions. Chioma was walking back to her room after her shift when it happened. The hallway was empty, dark. The rest of the staff had gone to bed hours ago. She did not hear the footsteps behind her, did not see the figure until hands grabbed her, shoved her against the wall hard enough to knock the breath from her lungs. Mrs. Shin's face was inches from hers, twisted with rage that made her unrecognizable. You stupid girl. Did you really think you could come into my house and ruin everything? Chioma's heart hammered against her ribs. I do not know what you are talking about. Do not lie to me. Mrs. Shin's grip tightened. Painful. Bruising. I know what you have been doing. Sneaking around. Feeding the old woman. Turning Mihu against me with your lies. You are starving her. Chioma's fear turned to anger. Hot. Burning. You are killing her slowly. That is not a lie. That is murder. Mrs. Shin's smile was cold. Empty. Sociopathic. I am freeing her. And this family. From the burden of her existence. She is old. Useless. Her time is over. She should have died years ago. You are insane. I am practical. Mrs. Shin's grip moved to Chioma's throat. Not squeezing yet. Just threatening. And you are a problem that needs to be solved. Tonight. Chioma tried to pull away. But Mrs. Shin was stronger than she looked. Decades of physical labor had built strength that her elegant clothes hid well. You have two choices, Mrs. Shin said quietly. Calmly. Like they were discussing the weather. Leave tonight. Disappear. Go back to Nigeria and never speak of what you have seen. Or I will make sure everyone knows you have been stealing. That you have been manipulating a sick old woman for money. I have documentation. Witnesses. Everything I need to destroy you. No one will believe you. Will they not? Mrs. Shin leaned closer. Her breath smelled like expensive perfume and rot. A foreign chef with debt and a failed restaurant? Against my word? Against years of loyal service to this family? You will go to prison, Chioma. Or worse. Accidents happen. Especially to people who do not know when to mind their own business. Chioma's mind raced. She needed to scream. Call for help. Do something. But Mrs. Shin's hand moved to cover her mouth. Cut off her air. Her options. Her hope. Think carefully. The older woman whispered. Your life? Or your principles? Choose. And then a voice cut through the darkness. Cold. Deadly. Absolutely terrifying. Get your hands off her. Now. Mihu stood at the end of the hallway. And the expression on his face was something from nightmares. From hell itself. Mrs. Shin released Chioma immediately. Composed herself with practiced ease. Tried to smile like nothing was wrong. Like she had not just been threatening to kill someone. Sir, I was just. I know exactly what you were doing. Mihu interrupted. His voice was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that came before storms. Before violence. I have known for a week. I have cameras everywhere, Mrs. Shin. Every hallway. Every corner. Did you really think I would not see this? The color drained from Mrs. Shin's face. All that practiced composure cracking. Crumbling. I can explain. Explain how you starved my mother for 6 months? Explain how you embezzled over 50 million won from household accounts? Explain how you just threatened to kill a member of my staff. Mihu moved forward. Each step deliberate. Predatory. Like a wolf closing in on prey. Because I would love to hear those explanations. Mrs. Shin's mouth opened. Closed. No words came out. For the first time in years, She had nothing to say. No lies prepared. No excuses ready. Security is already at your room, Mihu said calmly. Like he was discussing the weather. Like he was not destroying someone's entire life. They are collecting evidence. Bank records. Documents. Everything you thought you had hidden so well. Everything you thought I was too busy to notice. You cannot prove anything. I can prove everything. Mihu stopped inches from her. Leaned close. Whispered something in her ear that made Mrs. Shin's face go white with pure terror. When he stepped back, she was shaking. Actually trembling like a leaf in a storm. Security appeared at the end of the hallway. Two large men who did not ask questions. Who had worked for Mihu long enough to know that when he gave orders, you followed them without hesitation. Take her, Mihu said. Make sure she does not leave the estate. I want her available for the police in the morning. They grabbed Mrs. Shin's arms. She tried to struggle, tried to protest, but it was useless. She was already gone, already finished. As they dragged her away, Mihu turned to Chioma, and just like that, the monster disappeared. His expression softened. His voice gentled, became almost tender. Are you hurt? Chioma shook her head. She was trembling now too. Adrenaline and fear and relief crashing through her in waves that made her knees weak. I am okay. I am. Her knees buckled. Mihu caught her before she hit the ground. Scooped her up like she weighed nothing. Like she was precious cargo that needed careful handling. I have got you, he murmured against her hair. You are safe now. I promise you are safe. Chioma wanted to protest. To say she could walk on her own. That she did not need to be carried like a child. But she could not find the words. Could not find the strength. She buried her face against his chest and let him carry her away. Let herself be weak. Just this once. Just for now. Mihu brought Chioma to his private office. Settled her on the leather couch that probably cost more than her entire year's salary. Poured her water with hands that shook slightly. Drink, he ordered gently. Chioma obeyed. The water helped. Cleared her head. Brought her back to herself. Back to reality. How long were you there? She asked. In the hallway? Long enough. Mihu's jaw clenched. Long enough to hear her threaten you. To see her put her hands on you. To watch her try to hurt you. I could have handled it. I know you could have. He crouched in front of her, bringing their eyes level. But you should not have to. Not alone. Not ever again. Do you understand me? Chioma's breath caught at the intensity in his eyes. What did you say to her? At the end, Mihu's expression darkened. Became the crime lord again. The dangerous man. I told her that if she ever came near you again, if she ever so much as thought your name, I would make sure she disappeared. Slowly. Painfully. And that unlike her threats, mine are not empty. I follow through. Chioma should have been horrified. Should have been frightened by the casual way he spoke about violence. About making people disappear. Instead, she felt safe. Protected. Like nothing in the world could hurt her as long as Mihu was there. She could have hurt you, Mihu continued. His hand came up, hesitated, then gently touched her cheek. When I saw her grab you on the camera, when I saw her hands on your throat, I have never been that angry in my life. Never felt that kind of rage. I am okay, Chioma whispered. You are not okay. You are shaking. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. Soft. Gentle. Nothing like the violence he had just threatened. And it is my fault. I brought you into this house. Put you in danger. You did not know. I should have known. Should have paid attention. Should have protected my mother. Should have protected you. His voice broke on the last word. Chioma did something brave then. Something reckless that she would probably regret later. She leaned forward and wrapped her arms around Mihu's neck. Held him the way he had held her in the hallway. He froze. Every muscle in his body went rigid. Like he had forgotten how to accept comfort. How to let someone care for him. Thank you. Chioma whispered against his shoulder. For saving me. For believing me. For everything you have done. For a long moment, Mihu did not move. Did not breathe. Did not respond. Then his arms came around her. Pulled her close. Held her like she was the most precious thing he had ever touched. Like she was something he had been waiting his whole life to find. You saved my mother, he said roughly. You saved the only family I have left. I should be thanking you. We saved each other, Chioma said softly. And she meant it. Every word. In that moment, in that embrace, something shifted between them. Something fundamental. Permanent. Inevitable. Something that would change both their lives forever. Chioma woke up in Mihu's office, on his couch, with his jacket draped over her like a blanket. Morning light streamed through the windows, golden and warm. She sat up slowly, disoriented. Her neck ached from the awkward angle. Her throat was sore where Mrs. Shin had grabbed her. The last thing she remembered was Mihu holding her, murmuring something in Korean that sounded like a promise. The warmth of his arms, the steady beat of his heart against her ear. She must have fallen asleep. The door opened. Mihu entered carrying a tray. Coffee, toast, fresh fruit arranged carefully, like he had taken time to make it look nice. "You are awake," he said. His voice was softer than she had ever heard it. Gentler. "How do you feel?" "Confused." "What time is it?" 7. "You slept for about 4 hours." He set the tray on the coffee table. "I had breakfast brought up. You need to eat." Chioma's stomach growled, betraying her. "What about G1? Does she know what happened?" "My mother is fine. I moved her to a different room. One with proper security. Medical staff that I personally vetted and background checked." Mihu sat in the chair across from her. Close but not too close. Respectful of her space. "She is being examined by actual doctors right now. Real ones. Not the frauds Mrs. Shin paid off." Relief flooded through Chioma's body. Made her feel light. Almost dizzy. And Mrs. Shin? Being questioned by police. They found everything. Bank records. Forged documents. Evidence of the starvation. The embezzlement. Mihu's expression was cold. Empty of mercy. "She will spend the rest of her life in prison. I will make absolutely sure of it." The other staff? Anyone who was complicit is being dismissed, with legal action to follow where appropriate. He paused. Looked at her with eyes that saw too much. "I should have seen it. Should have known something was wrong." Chioma reached for the coffee. Needed something to do with her hands. "You trusted the people you employed. That is not a character flaw. It is when that trust nearly killed my mother." Mihu's hands clenched into fists. "When it put you in danger. I chose to help G1. That was not your fault. You had to choose because I was blind. Because I was so focused on building my empire that I did not see what was happening in my own home." He looked at her then. Really looked at her with an intensity that made her skin feel too tight. "Why did you do it, Chioma? Risk everything for a stranger?" Chioma thought about that question. About the real answer that lived in her bones. "My grandmother raised me," she said slowly, carefully picking her words. "After my parents died in a car accident. She taught me to cook. Taught me that food was love. That caring for someone, feeding them, was the most basic way to show humanity. To show you see them as a person who matters." She wrapped her hands around the warm coffee cup, anchored herself with the heat. "When I found your mother, I saw my grandmother. What could have happened to her if I had not been there? If no one had cared enough to help?" Chioma's voice cracked. "I could not walk away. Not from her. Not from anyone who needed help." Mihu was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood, crossed to the couch, sat beside her, close, so close she could feel the heat of his body, smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle that made her head spin. "You are extraordinary," he said quietly. "Do you know that?" Chioma's heart hammered. "I am really not. I am just a chef who could not make it back home, who ran away instead of facing her failures." "No." His voice was firm. Final. "You are brave. Compassionate. Strong in ways most people will never understand. You saw someone suffering, and you did not look away. Do you know how rare that is?" "Mihu, I have not been able to stop thinking about you," he interrupted, the words tumbling out like he had been holding them back for too long. "Since the moment I realized what you were doing, what you were risking, what kind of person you are. This is crazy. We barely know each other. I know you risked everything for someone you did not know. I know you are kind and fierce and beautiful in ways that have nothing to do with your face." His hand came up, cupped her cheek. His thumb brushed across her skin. "I know that when Mrs. Shin grabbed you, I wanted to destroy her for daring to touch you, for daring to hurt you." Chioma's breath caught. She should pull away, should create distance, should protect herself from this dangerous man and these dangerous feelings. But she did not want to. "I know that right now, all I can think about is kissing you," Mihu continued. His voice dropped lower, rougher. "And I know I should not. That you work for me. That this is complicated. That I could be taking advantage. But I cannot seem to care about any of that." Chioma's world tilted. Spun. "You want to kiss me?" "Desperately. I am a mess. I fell asleep in your office. I probably have coffee breath. I have bruises on my throat from where your head of household tried to kill me. I am. Mihu smiled. Actually smiled. It transformed his face completely. Made him look younger. Almost boyish. You are rambling. I ramble when I am nervous. Are you nervous? Terrified, Chioma admitted. Her heart was racing so fast she thought it might explode. Of me. Of this. Of what it means. Of what happens if I let myself want something I cannot have. What if you can have it? Mihu's forehead touched hers. Gentle. Asking permission. What if I am offering it to you freely? Chioma could not breathe. Could not think. Could only feel the warmth of his skin. The closeness of his mouth. The possibility hanging between them like something fragile and precious. Then I would say yes, she whispered. Mihu kissed her. It was soft at first. Gentle. Careful. Like he was afraid she might break. Like she was something precious he had been entrusted to care for. But Chioma had never been fragile. Had never been someone who needed careful handling. She kissed him back. Poured weeks of tension and fear and longing into it. Grabbed his shirt in her fists and pulled him closer. Mihu made a sound low in his throat. His hand slid into her hair. Deepened the kiss. Took and gave in equal measure. It was perfect. Earth-shattering. Everything Chioma had dreamed about in those lonely nights when she let herself imagine impossible things. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Mihu rested his forehead against hers. I need you to know something, he said roughly. This is not gratitude. This is not some temporary thing because you saved my mother. What is it then? It is me falling for you. Hard and fast and completely. He pulled back to meet her eyes. And I need to know if that terrifies you. If you want me to stop. If you need me to walk away. Over the next 2 weeks, the estate transformed. Mrs. Shin and 3 other staff members were arrested. The household was purged of anyone who had been complicit in Ji-won's abuse. Anyone who had looked the other way while an old woman starved. New staff were hired. Carefully vetted. People who understood that loyalty to the Kong family meant protecting all members of the family, not just the powerful son. And Ji-won bloomed like a flower after winter. With proper nutrition and medical care, she gained weight. Color returned to her cheeks. Strength to her limbs. The doctors said it was miraculous. That someone who had been starved for so long should not have recovered so well. But Chioma knew the truth. Ji-won was a fighter. And now she had something to fight for. Her son. Her family. The future she had almost lost. Chioma was promoted. Not just to head chef, but to director of household services. She oversaw every meal prepared for Ji-won. Worked with nutritionists and doctors to create a recovery plan that would bring Ji-won back to full health. But more than that, she became part of the family in ways that had nothing to do with her job title. She ate dinner with Mihu and Ji-won every night. Laughed at Ji-won's stories about Mihu as a child. Stories that made him blush and protest and looked so human it made Chioma's heart ache. She blushed when Mihu touched her hand under the table, when his knee pressed against hers, when he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. It felt like home, like belonging, like everything Chioma had been searching for her entire life without knowing what she was looking for. If you have been enjoying this love story, hit that like button and subscribe, because what happens next is going to make your heart race. Trust me, you do not want to miss this. You are taking me where? Chioma asked, looking at the dress Mihu had sent to her room. Not the tiny staff quarters anymore. She had a proper room now. Beautiful. Comfortable. With windows that overlooked the garden. The dress was beautiful. Designer. Probably cost more than she used to make in 3 months back in Lagos. It is a surprise, Mihu said through the phone. His voice was warm. Amused. Lighter than she had ever heard it. Just wear the dress. Be ready at 7. Mihu. Trust me. And Chioma did. That was the terrifying part. She trusted him completely. This dangerous man who made people disappear. Who built an empire on fear and respect and absolute control. She trusted him with her life. With her heart. With everything. The car took them to a restaurant on the top floor of a building overlooking Seoul. Private room. Floor-to-ceiling windows. The city spread out below them like a sea of lights and possibility. This is beautiful, Chioma breathed. I wanted to take you somewhere special. Mihu helped her into her chair. Always so careful with her. So gentle. Somewhere worthy of you. You know I am happy with street food, right? You do not have to impress me with expensive restaurants. I know. He sat across from her, reached across the table, took her hand. But I want to. I want to give you everything. Everything you deserve. Everything you have been denied. Chioma's heart melted. You already gave me everything. A job. Safety. Your trust. Your mother's love. I gave you what you earned. Mihu's thumb brushed across her knuckles. What you deserved from the beginning. Dinner was incredible. Course after course of beautifully prepared food. But Chioma barely tasted it. She was too focused on Mihu. The way he looked at her. Like she was the only person in the world. The way he listened when she talked. Really listened. Like her words mattered more than anything else. The way he smiled at her stories. Laughed at her jokes. Opened up about his own life in ways she suspected he never did with anyone else. Tell me about your restaurant, he said over dessert. The one that failed in Lagos. Chioma tensed. That is not really first date conversation. Why not? It is part of your story. Part of what made you who you are. Part of what brought you to me. So Chioma told him. About the dream she had. The restaurant that was supposed to honor her grandmother's memory. The loans she took out from family and friends. The partners who embezzled funds and disappeared, leaving her with nothing but debt and shame. I was so stupid, she said quietly, staring at her dessert instead of meeting his eyes. I trusted people I should not have. Signed contracts I did not understand. And I lost everything. Mihu's grip tightened on her hand. You were not stupid. You were hopeful. There is a difference. Hopeful people end up bankrupt and alone in foreign countries. No. His voice was firm. Absolute. Hopeful people end up in Seoul, saving the lives of strangers, building new dreams, finding new families, finding love. Chioma's eyes stung with tears she refused to let fall. Is that what you are? My new family. I want to be. Mihu stood, walked around the table, pulled her to her feet. I want to be everything to you, Chioma. If you will let me. If you are brave enough to take that risk. This is moving so fast. I know. And if you need me to slow down, I will. I will wait as long as you need. He cupped her face in his hands. Tender. Careful. But I have spent my whole life being careful. Being calculated. Making safe choices. And then you walked into my home and turned everything upside down. I did not mean to. I know. That is what makes it perfect. He smiled. I do not want to be careful with you. I do not want to waste time pretending this is anything other than what it is. I want you. I want this. I want us. Chioma kissed him, cut off whatever he was going to say next with her mouth on his. Mihu responded immediately, pulled her close, kissed her like she was air and he was drowning, like she was the answer to questions he had been asking his entire life. When they broke apart, both breathless, Chioma smiled. Take me home, she whispered. My home or yours? Ours, Chioma said, testing the word, liking how it felt on her tongue. Take me to our home. They did not make it to the bedroom. The moment they entered Mihu's private quarters, he pressed Chioma against the door, kissed her like he had been starving for her, like she was everything he needed to survive. Tell me to stop, he murmured against her lips. His hands framed her face, gentle despite the hunger in his eyes. Tell me this is too fast, and I will stop. I will wait as long as you need. Do not stop, Chioma breathed. Her fingers tangled in his hair. Do not you dare stop. His control shattered like glass. What happened next was something out of Chioma's wildest dreams. Mihu was gentle, reverent, like she was something precious he had been entrusted to care for, like she mattered more than anything else in the world. But there was hunger too, a desperate need that matched her own, a connection that went deeper than physical, something that felt like coming home after a lifetime of wandering. They came together like a storm, all heat and intensity and belonging. All the tension of the past weeks finally finding release. And when it was over, when they lay tangled in Mihu's massive bed, Chioma felt something shift in her chest. Something fundamental. Permanent. This was not just attraction. Not just gratitude or adrenaline or any of the logical explanations she could give herself. This was love. Terrifying, all-consuming, life-changing love. Stay, Mihu whispered into the darkness. His arm was wrapped around her waist, holding her close like he was afraid she might disappear. Stay with me. Not just tonight. Always. Chioma turned in his arms. Mihu, I know it is fast. I know it is crazy. I know all the logical reasons why this should not work. His hand came up, traced the line of her jaw with infinite tenderness. but I have never been more certain of anything in my life. You belong here. With me. With my mother. With this family. I am still technically your employee. Then I will fire you." He smiled in the darkness. "Hire you as something else. Family consultant. Professional lifesaver. Director of making my mother happy. I do not care about the title." "What do you care about?" "You," he said simply. Like it was the easiest answer in the world. "Just you. Only you." Chioma woke up in Mihu's bed the next morning. Sunlight streaming through the windows. The sound of the shower running in the attached bathroom. Expensive sheets that felt like clouds against her skin. She stretched, sore in the most delicious ways. Smiled at the memory of the night before. The way Mihu had touched her. Worshipped her. Made her feel like the most important person in the universe. Then reality crashed in like a wave. She had slept with her employer. In his house. Where his mother was recovering from starvation. Oh God. Ji-won. What would she think? Would she be disappointed? Angry? Would this ruin everything they had built? Chioma was still spiraling when Mihu emerged from the bathroom. Hair damp. Dressed in casual clothes that somehow made him even more attractive. A simple shirt and slacks that showed off his frame. "Good morning," he said with a smile that made her stomach flutter. "You are awake." "Your mother," Chioma blurted. "What if she knows? What will we tell her?" Mihu sat on the edge of the bed. Took her hand in his. "My mother adores you. And she has been not so subtly hinting that I should pursue you for weeks now. She has. She called you perfect daughter-in-law material 3 days ago." Mihu laughed at Chioma's shocked expression. She said, and I quote, "That girl is going to be family whether you are smart enough to see it or not." Chioma's eyes widened. She did not. She absolutely did. In Korean and then in English to make sure I understood. He leaned in, kissed her softly. "My mother is a romantic. And she wants me to be happy. You make me happy, Chioma. Happier than I have been in years. Maybe ever. We have known each other for less than 2 months. And yet I cannot imagine my life without you in it." He pulled back, met her eyes. "Does that scare you?" Chioma thought about lying. About protecting herself. Building walls the way she had learned to do after her restaurant failed. After people she trusted betrayed her. But Mihu deserved honesty. Deserved the truth even when it was terrifying. "It terrifies me," she admitted. "But I cannot imagine my life without you either. Without this. Without us." Ji-won took one look at Chioma and Mihu entering the dining room together and smiled like she had won the lottery. Like all her prayers had been answered at once. "Good morning," she said sweetly. Too sweetly. "Did you both sleep well?" Chioma blushed crimson. Mihu just laughed. "Very well, mother. Thank you for asking. I am sure you did." Ji-won gestured to the chairs. "Sit. Eat. You both look like you need your strength." If possible, Chioma turned even redder. But as they sat down, as Mihu's hand found hers under the table, as Ji-won chattered happily about her improving health and the new physical therapist, Chioma felt something settle in her chest. Peace. Belonging. Home. This was what family felt like. What love felt like. What home felt like after years of being lost. And she never wanted to let it go. 3 months after Mrs. Shin's arrest, Mihu took Chioma to the garden, to the spot where they had first really talked, where she had told him she was staying despite the danger, despite the fear. "We have been together for almost 4 months now," he began. 3 months and 2 weeks, Chioma corrected with a smile. 3 months and 2 weeks. "And they have been the best months of my life." He took her hands. "You have transformed everything, Chioma. My home, my relationship with my mother. My entire world. I cannot imagine going back to who I was before you." Chioma's heart started racing. "Mihu, let me finish." He smiled nervously. Actually nervous. "I had a whole speech planned. About how you saved my mother. How you challenged me. How you made me want to be better. A better son. A better man. A better person. You do not need a speech. I know. But I want you to understand what you mean to me." He squeezed her hands. "I love you. Completely. Eternally. With everything I have. And I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you." Mihu dropped to one knee. Chioma's breath caught. Tears already gathering in her eyes. Her free hand came up to cover her mouth. From his pocket, he pulled a small box. Inside was a ring. Beautiful. Delicate. Obviously expensive, but somehow still perfect. A diamond that caught the light and threw rainbows across the garden. "My mother helped me choose this," Mihu said. She said it needed to be perfect for the woman who saved her life, who saved mine, who became family before she ever had the ring to prove it. He opened the box fully. The ring sparkled in the afternoon sunlight. Chioma Okafor, will you marry me? Will you let me love you for the rest of our lives? Will you build a family with me and create a future that is ours? Will you be my wife, my partner, my home? Chioma could not speak, could not breathe, could only nod frantically as tears streamed down her face. Happy tears, overwhelmed tears, tears of joy and disbelief and absolute certainty. Yes, she finally managed. Her voice was thick with emotion. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. Mihu slipped the ring on her finger, then stood, pulled her into his arms, kissed her like she was oxygen and he was drowning, like she was the answer to every question he had ever asked. And from the house, Chioma heard Ji-won's delighted laughter, saw her standing at the window, clapping her hands together, wiping happy tears from her own eyes. Their family, complete and whole and perfect. 1 year later, Chioma stood in her restaurant kitchen, watching her team prepare for the evening service. Halmiani's table had become one of Seoul's most celebrated restaurants. Reservations booked months in advance. Critics raving about her unique fusion of Nigerian and Korean flavors. But her favorite part was still this: the rhythm of the kitchen, the smell of food cooking, the knowledge that she was feeding people, making them happy, creating memories around her grandmother's recipes mixed with Ji-won's traditional Korean dishes. The new menu is brilliant, her sous chef said. A young Korean woman who reminded Chioma of herself years ago. Hungry, talented, desperate to prove herself. Thank you. Ji-won helped me develop it. Chioma smiled. She has been teaching me traditional recipes. Family recipes passed down for generations. Your mother-in-law is amazing. She really is. Chioma looked at her wedding ring. Still not used to seeing it there. Still amazed that this was her life now. Mihu appeared in the kitchen doorway. He always made reservations like any other customer. Always tipped generously. Always looked at Chioma like she hung the moon and stars. Ready to go home? He asked. Almost. Let me just check on the prep for tomorrow. Take your time. I am in no rush. He leaned against the doorway, watched her work with that expression she had come to know so well. Pride, love, admiration. 20 minutes later, they drove home together. To the estate that had once been a prison for Ji-won. That had been Chioma's salvation. That was now filled with love and laughter and family. Ji-won was waiting in the garden. Stronger now. Healthy. Vibrant. Teaching cooking classes to young chefs. Writing a cookbook with Chioma. Living her life fully after coming so close to death. There you are, Ji-won said when they arrived. I was beginning to think you forgot about family dinner. Never, Chioma said, kissing her mother-in-law's cheek. Because that was what Ji-won was now. Not just Mihu's mother, but Chioma's mother too. The family she had lost and found again in the most unexpected place. They ate dinner together. The three of them, talking about their days, making plans for the future, laughing at Ji-won's stories about the students in her cooking class. One of them reminds me of you, Ji-won told Chioma. Nigerian, far from home, trying to make it in a country that does not always welcome outsiders. Are you going to help her? Chioma asked. Of course. The way you helped me. The way we help family. Ji-won smiled. That is what we do. We see people who need help, and we show up for them. After dinner, Mihu and Chioma stood on their balcony, looking out over Seoul, over the city that had become home in ways Lagos never quite had. Do you ever regret it? Mihu asked. His arms were wrapped around her from behind. Coming here? Staying? Choosing this life? Chioma thought about that question. About the girl who arrived at these gates a year ago. Desperate. Broke. Running from failure. About everything that had happened since. The fear. The danger. The love. The family. The home. Never, she said. Not for a single second. This is exactly where I am supposed to be. With me. With you. With Ji-won. With this family we built from nothing. From a moment of compassion in a locked room in the south wing. Chioma turned in his arms. Met his eyes. You are my home, Mihu. You and Ji-won. This life we created. I would choose it again. I would choose you again. Every single time. Mihu kissed her. Soft and sweet and full of promise. I love you. I love you too. They stood there as the sun set over Seoul. As the city lights flickered to life below them. as their life together stretched out ahead of them, full of possibility and promise and love. Chioma Okafor had come to Seoul looking for a job, for money to pay her debts, for a way to escape her failures. Instead, she found everything. A family, a home, a love that transformed her life, a purpose that went deeper than cooking. She found Ji-won dying in a locked room in the South Wing and chose compassion over safety, chose to help instead of looking away. And that single choice, that moment of bravery, had given her everything. A mother, a husband, a family, a life worth living. Sometimes love comes quietly. Sometimes it comes in crisis. Sometimes it comes in the most unexpected places, in the darkest moments, when you are brave enough to choose kindness over fear. For Chioma and Mihu, it came in a locked room with an act of courage, with a choice to help a stranger, with food made from scraps and love made visible. And from that single choice came everything. A family that chose each other, a love that healed wounds, a home that was built on compassion and trust, and the belief that some people are worth any risk. Because love, real love, is worth everything. Worth the danger, worth the fear, worth the risk of opening your heart to someone who could break it. And when you find that love, when you find that person who sees you and chooses you and loves you despite everything, you hold on tight. You build a life together. You create a family. You find your way home. Thank you for journeying with Chioma and Mihu. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes in the power of love to transform lives. Because sometimes the person you save ends up saving you right back. And that is the most beautiful story of all. The end.